Hello, 3rd through 4th grade. We're going to start off with our sniglet. This is Grindle. Grindle is the popcorn kernels stuck in your back teeth. I don't know about you, but I have had that happen. And I like that word. I got some grindle in my teeth. Or I have some grindle. Don't even have to say in your teeth. Our Shakespeare quotation is one that is so simple you might not know that it came from Shakespeare. But it's lie low. I use this one a lot. Like, I'm just going to lie low. The idea is that I'm going to wait and not make a stir, not almost like a cat crouching before they pounce. It's kind of like I don't want anyone to notice me. And that comes from the play Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. And also, let me point out, it does not say lay low. You don't say I lay low. You say I lie. Lay would be the past tense. I could say she lay low. All right. Our Proverbs today is Proverbs 12:19. It says, "The truthful lip shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment." I don't even exactly know how lips can be established forever or a lying tongue can be but for a moment. But the idea is that in Scripture, we know that there is always truth and eternity go together. And a lying has the idea of being fleeting. I don't know if this means it will be found out. You will always be found out if you lie. Or if that this is talking about eternal truth. But either way, I think the important thing to remember is you want to be on the same side as truth. You do not want to be known or on the side of the lie. Talking a lot about lie low, and lie. All right, so our topic today is very short. I hope that's good for you. It gives you more time to do other things. But we are going to review proofreading. We talked about it at the beginning, and we're going to talk about it again, because this is how you are going to become a better writer. It's practicing. Just like with an instrument, if you're learning the piano or another instrument, your teacher is going to have you practice certain things. And one of the things that we're going to practice and get very good at is proofreading. Okay? So I gave you a list this time of things to look for. What I'd like for you to do is to take your fable and your myth. If you have someone who's doing this with you, trade with them. Trade your paragraphs for their paragraphs. And then you are going to proofread their writing and they're going to proofread your writing. If you're doing this by yourself, you can do it on your own writing. It's just very difficult to do at the beginning when you're not used to proofreading. It's for some reason harder to check your own writing. You tend to look over the same mistakes than if you're reading something fresh. Or your parents can give you a fake paragraph, which I'm going to show you on the next page. You can use mine, or your parents can make one up for you. But it would really benefit you to trade with somebody or to do your own. So here's the list I want you. I want you to start with number 1. Look for capital letters at the beginning of sentences and at the beginning of proper nouns. Now, you should have already learned this in your grammar, but if you haven't, I'm going to review it for you. So whenever you write a sentence, the first letter must be capitalized, even if it's not an important word. The cow jumped over the moon. Okay? My first word is the. So that means it cannot be lowercase. It has to be capitalized. All right? So what I recommend is picking a color of your choice. Well, I'll get to that in a second. So the first letter must be capitalized. Secondly, you have proper nouns and you have common nouns, right? Have you studied this yet? Common nouns are nouns that are common. They're not special. They're everywhere. A cow. It's not a special cow. It's just a cow. But if I said Betsy, the cow, then Betsy is a proper noun because it's a name for the cow. So Betsy had better be capitalized. So there are common and proper nouns all throughout our language. You could say the house, or you could say the White House. Whenever you're referring to a proper noun, the first letter must be capitalized. Number 2, the second thing I want you to check for is correct end punctuation. There are 3 punctuation marks that are acceptable at the end of a sentence because there are 4 kinds of sentences. Again, this may be new, this may be review for you. If it's new, you can pause and study. If it's review, then just follow along. The 4 kinds of sentences are declarative, imperative, and both of those use periods, exclamatory, that uses an exclamation mark, that's easy to remember, and interrogative, and that uses a question mark. Check all of your sentences. It can only have a period, an exclamation mark, and a question mark. Thirdly, don't use commas as decoration. This is a common mistake for beginning writers. It has sometimes been said incorrectly that you should insert a comma where you would pause in speaking. That is really bad advice because there are many times where you would pause in speaking, but a comma does not belong. There are also places that commas are required where you would not pause in speaking. So do not use that as your rule of thumb. That is a bad rule. And it's bad because we all pause at different places. It's subjective, as we say. It's not an objective rule. So do not just simply use commas where you want because you feel like it. I call it decoration, and that would actually be incorrect. And then lastly, check for spelling, and especially watch out for wrong synonyms. Now, maybe you have learned about synonyms, maybe you have not. But those are the most common misspelled words. Sometimes we think of misspelled words as totally wrong. Like I would never say wrong. Wrong is not spelled like this, R-O-N-G. It is spelled with a silent W at the front. And you would never say me, give it to me, and you would never spell it with 2 E's, right? Those are always wrong, okay? But actually very common, even in professional editing, it's very common to use the wrong synonym. So I might say, dear mom. Is this the right deer? No, that's the animal. The correct deer, first of all, should be capitalized, and it would be spelled D-E-A-R. These are the most common misspellings in writing. And another reason they're so common is because if we're typing them out, our computers help us out, and they'll add a red squiggly or a red dotted line under a word if it's misspelled. And it will often suggest the right one if you hover over it. But you know what it won't catch? It will not catch synonyms. Those are very hard for a computer to detect because it is correct spelling. It's just the wrong one. So those are the 4 things I want you to look for. Now I'm going to show you on the other side what I suggest is a fun way to proofread. I like using colors. So you can take your copy of your myth or your fable and your fable, both, and pick a color for each one of these. So I'm going to pick green for number 1, and I'm going to pick blue for number 2. I'm going to pick yellow for number 3, and I'm going to pick pink for number 4. Okay, so I'm going to start with number 4. Check for spelling and watch out for wrong synonyms. So I'm going to look through. One day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. And in the middle of this place was a large oak tree. And from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. Now, I changed this. This is a paragraph taken from the book Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. Great book. You should read it. And I went through and I made some intentional mistakes. Now, let me see if I can find my own mistakes. I did this yesterday, so I know that this is not how you spell pause. So I'm going to put SP beside it. Why not? Because there are two pause. There's this pause and there's this pause. One means to stop for a moment in time before continuing, and the other one means the parts of a animal that are like hands for humans. Those are my made-up definitions. I'm sure you can find better ones, but we know that he did not put his head between his paws. He put it between his paws. Okay? Sounds the same. Let's see if we can find another one. Oh, they came aloud. Oh, I found another one. There. Are there two there's? There are actually three there's, right? It is not there, but it is there, like over there. And I remember that because of the R is like an arrow pointing over there. Okay, so that's another one. So I'm going to put SP. I think that might be all. All right, so I did number 4. Now I'm going to look for number 3. All right, don't use commas as decoration. Now, I will say this. I did not put any additional commas in here. This author likes to use them quite a bit. And he used them all correctly. He likes long sentences. So I did not add any in here. So we're not gonna make any changes here. So we're gonna move on. Too bad because I like yellow. Here, I'll just underline this and make it beautiful in yellow. Okay, number 2. Check for correct end punctuation. Now, I made an obvious one. Maybe you noticed, but look at this. Ooh, that should be a what? That should be a period. There are actually only 2 sentences in this paragraph. Oh, and they're missing a comma, actually. This should be a comma. So, because we have a list. He sat, he put, and then he began. Okay? And then, number 1. We're going to look for capital letters. The first one should be capitalized. And so should Winnie the Pooh. So those 2 should be capitalized. Those 2 words, or could say 3 actually. All right, so that is how you would edit. So I like using colors. You can do that with colored pencils or markers. Have fun with this. But practice proofreading. I know that these 4 things are really big things we're working on in 3rd and 4th grade. And the better you get at finding these errors, or even just doing it correctly the first time, the better you will become as a writer. So take that fable and that myth and let's revise it and correct it. And it'd be really great if you could swap it with someone.